everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. I can't come on this show with that sleepy, tired intro music, especially after a night like this, a game like this. The audience is hurting. We need something. We need a pick-me-up. We can't continue on like this. So you know what? I've got exactly what we need here, folks. We need something new. We need something fresh. We need something to turn the page. So let's do that and introduce to you Kenny and Renny's new 30-second intro music before the Kenny and Renny show. Let's hit it. Yes. Now that's some intro music right there. Finally, after years of the K&R, thank you, all of you folks out there, for sticking with us through all the hard times and all the bad 30-second intro music until, the guy, Tristan Rivers, came along and said, this shall not stand. This shall stand no longer. Inbox, pop. There you go. Intro music. Another Tristan Rivers special. So if that doesn't turn your mood around, I don't know what will. Let's see if we can turn it around for the rest of this K&R show and break down what happened on this night tonight. So yeah. Here, just before, I know there are some people who may be panicking right now. I know I had someone send to me a message about the Jets being broken. And I will send out the reminder that even allowing 7 goals. There's not a rule. And I read through the entirety, front page to the back page of the NHL rule book. And what I found was that even if you score 7 goals, they don't say, hey, you get 2 wins for that one. In the end, this is just one loss, folks. But it's a big one, right? Like, this is the biggest loss that the Winnipeg Jets faced this year. And I know because I've had so many messages coming at me. I know that there's this strong urge for fans of any team, Winnipeg Jets included in there, that when their team loses, it's always something, right? Like the refs were off tonight. I had a lot of people, send me that kind of stuff. The refs were off. The lucky bounces were going the other way. Not like we haven't talked about the hockey gods and the bounces the Jets have had, and the hockey gods have delivered to the Jets all year. Reminder, Mark Scheifele has 2 goals in this series, and neither of them came off of his stick. I'm getting all of these messages from people, and I get it. You want to believe that at every turn, the Winnipeg Jets are just the perfect hockey team, that if everything, unless something intervenes, bad bounces, refs, whatever it is, the Winnipeg Jets will win every single game. This is a reminder that other teams have something to say about this. Hey, the first 2 games of this series, the St. Louis Blues have been a phenomenal hockey team, and the Jets have been just a little bit better. You got to find a way to get better and better and better as the series goes on, and the St. Louis Blues got a lot better tonight, and the Winnipeg Jets didn't. Okay? It happens. Adjustments are made, and to me, we talked about this series. I talked about the St. Louis Blues when it was a potential of a series between the Minnesota Wild, the St. Louis Blues, and the Calgary Flames. The team that I thought would be the toughest one for the Jets to handle would be the St. Louis Blues, for a very specific reason. From my time covering this game, from my time covering Monty, the head coach of the St. Louis Blues, have walked away with the impression that Monty is the kind of coach who game plans and adjusts really, really, really well. What did I say? That the Blues could be the kind of team that I don't think they'll beat the Jets. That's what I said. I still don't think that's the case. but that could build the kind of blueprint that other teams could look at and say, okay, we just learned, we went to school, we went to university on what challenges the Winnipeg Jets. And tonight, I think, was a perfect example of that. Adjustments were made by the St. Louis Blues, and the Jets did not handle those adjustments well. Paul, going back 2 coaches ago, asked Scott Arniel about it. He seemed pretty heated with the answer. I don't know. Ken can probably weigh in on why he would have been as heated as he was with the answer. But he admitted clearly the St. Louis Blues made a lot of adjustments in this game. I had a lot of people saying, oh, it's just the Jets. They didn't show up. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. The St. Louis Blues, and this is what the playoff hockey is all about. The Jets had a lot of strengths in those first games. St. Louis Blues were trying to find a way to turn their strengths into a weakness. They found it on this night. They found a lot of open ice. Swarming is what Monty had called it. The Jets like to swarm players, which means if the one guy's got the puck in the corner, you send a whole bunch of guys, a wall of guys at them. You trap them in the corner. There's 3 of you there. One guy takes the man, next guy takes the puck. He headmans it to the next guy, and all of a sudden you're attacking with speed. That's Jets hockey, right? But the theory behind Montgomery and his approach to the Jets was if those guys swarm you and you can get it to the other side of those guys, there is a lot of open ice. And that's what we saw on this night. Beyond that, we saw a St. Louis Blues team that found a way to enter the zone, get a lot of zone entries rather than dumping the puck. Now, think about this. There's a very, very clear and you're going to, I know exactly what you're going to say, but there's a clear marker that the St. Louis Blues completely changed up their game here tonight. Think of how many times Connor Hellebuyck handled the puck behind the net and passed it off to a Jets defenseman. Questions were asked about it. Ken, I believe, asked a question about the importance of Connor Hellebuyck in the Jets system in that he handles the puck and he's the first point of contact and distributes that puck. Other than when he turned the puck over tonight, he didn't handle the puck a lot tonight. Why? The St. Louis Blues know that's not working. Dumping it in behind the net, having Connor Hellebuyck stop it, gain possession, and move it to one of 2 defensemen who goes either way on either side of the ice, it was not working. So they changed things up. This is what it looks like, folks. The Winnipeg Jets were challenged tonight by a very different game plan, or at least a lot of different tweaks to the game plan, and they didn't know how to figure it out for the vast majority of this game, and it turned into a lot of pucks going in the other end of the net. It turned into very little flow out of the Winnipeg Jets. The good news about this, and we've talked about this, Scott Arniel, hey, every time you put a game plan on the ice that works for you, the Jets did it in games 1 and 2. Game 3, St. Louis Blues clearly put out a game plan that worked for them against the Winnipeg Jets. Now, the good news for the Jets is their head coaches their coaching staff gets to dig into it. And now they get to put in the different opening salvo. They get to put in the wrinkles. They get to put in the tweaks. And there's an advantage to that. There's an advantage because the St. Louis Blues know what they're going to do next game, but they don't know what the Winnipeg Jets are going to do next game. And it's put it this way. The ball is in the court of the Winnipeg Jets coaching staff to come up with something that counters what we saw here tonight, which was a brilliant game plan by the St. Louis Blues that turned into the biggest blowout win anyone has had against the Winnipeg Jets this year. That's what I saw in that game. Time to bring the man with the best music in the business to figure out what he saw. Here comes Kenny, folks. So, Kenny, I just want to make something clear to the audience here. And if you could pop that off the screen, you're getting a little happy with the graphics there. Unless you're ready to drop the Johnson Group got you covered. Yeah, hey, let's do it right now.
Admiring prongs over my shoulder here. I'm trying to will it into existence that he joins us This is the first step to getting him on the show. With
Hey,
the back,
we'll get him on the show. I'm telling you
Chris,
right now,
Chris
one of these
Ponga, there
times
he
we're
is.
gonna get him on the show. But hey, you already triggered it. Johnston Group got you covered. Play of the game.
Oh,
Let's do the Johnston Group got you covered. Goes to our main man Tristan
yeah.
Rivers for coming out with the music we've all been waiting for the 30-second intro to the Kenny and Renny show, to give people time to grab their popcorn and grab a pop and sit down and watch the show. So, hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. And hey, listen, this is important to point out. The first person to hear Tristan Rivers' music was Tristan Rivers himself when he rocked it out. The second person was me. The third is a tie between Ken Wiebe and all you folks out there, because that was a surprise for Ken Wiebe. I told him I had a big surprise for him tonight.
I got it.
Didn't give him anything more than that. So you folks, along with Ken Wiebe, just got laid in to something I think makes the show look a million times better, Ken. Just like you make the show look a million times better. And of course you do, because you're rocking that great tie combo with the deep shirt. You got the Hitman look going on there. That's what you can do down at Vittorio Rossi. You want to make things look a million times better, head on down to Corden Avenue, walk into Vittorio Rossi, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you up right. Ken, take it away.
Sir.
What you see in that game tonight?
A beatdown is what I saw. Impressive showing by one team, and Jets have not had a whole lot of. I mean, again, I guess I think the score makes it look like a no-show. I'm not sure it was a complete no-show, but they got overwhelmed and they never really responded. Yes, they, at one point they got it to 3-1, but the Jets were never really fully in this game, Sean. Falling behind 2-0 in the first 3:11, getting scored on 48 seconds in. They knew the Blues. This was a had to have it. It's not a must win, and I hate when people say it's a must win game at 2-0. It's only a must win when your season is on the line. But this was definitely a have to have it for the St. Louis Blues if they wanted to make this a series, and they have made it a series. The Jets have got punched in the mouth. We knew this was going to come at some point, and for folks who thought the Jets were going to steamroll their opponent and go 16-0 in the playoffs somehow, because of a 8-0 start and a 15-1 start and a 11-game winning streak late in the season. I mean, that's not how it goes in the playoffs. But one team raised its level considerably, and the other team sort of seemed like they were stuck in neutral for most of the evening, is what I saw. What were we talking about? I mean, Sean, both you and I were on with Kelly Moore at various points in the pregame show. I know that in one of my segments, I said Pavel Buchnevich has one shot on net. I mean, Jim Montgomery did his best to pump up his players that were not performing by saying he thought Buchnevich was fine. But he had one shot on net in 2 games. He's one of their most gifted offensive players. He was not really anywhere to be found, even though he made a few nice plays. Sure. Today he was a dominant force. Cam Fowler, 5-pack. How you liking that trade? That's a Doug Armstrong special. Early preemptive strike from the Anaheim Ducks. Cam Fowler, 1 goal, 5 points. I mean, the Jets had their stars show up and shine in the first 2 games. And today, Robert Thomas, 3 helpers for him. Buchnevich, unbelievable game. Fowler, best game of the series by far, maybe his best as a Blue. And Colton Parayko, Josh Morrissey's partner, was an absolute horse in this game. And those guys elevated, and the Jets didn't do enough to make it a hockey game. But, again, as you mentioned, I mean, that this is not the aha moment. Now is when the Jets forget what they've done for 86 or 85 games and then, kind of fell flat in game 86. That is not what I see happening here. But what I saw was a lot of urgency from one team, and a team that didn't want to fall behind 3-0, knowing what falling behind 3-0 means in a series against a team like the Winnipeg Jets. But now the Jets are going to have to get back into the lab and respond. I mean, to your question about Scott, I've seen that version of Scott O'Neill. We haven't seen it a lot this year. Scott doesn't like to lose. He hates losing. He's not a good loser. But often when you're not a good loser, that means you're a winner. So, do I like it for post-game quotes? No. but a little bit of saltiness in your post game. I've seen this before from Scott. It's not out of character. It's not a coach, not acting on brand. But again, I don't think it was the fact that he necessarily didn't like the question. He just didn't like the result of what your question. They're going to be digging into video about adjustments tomorrow. So the fact that he doesn't want to talk about it publicly, that's fine. But it doesn't mean that, you were going down a path that was, not a good path. I mean, obviously the Jets are disappointed they weren't able to counter the adjustments, which is why I think there was a little more saltiness into the tone.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I've got absolutely no problem with the question I asked. And to be honest with you, I learned a long time ago when it comes to the emotions that roll with, it doesn't mean that I don't, when just so people understand, I asked a question that Scott Arneal got real salty with. I was thinking for a second that he may jump over the table and come down into the audience afterwards. I thought he was pretty salty with all three of the questions that I asked, to be honest. Hey, you know what? I get it. People get heated. Emotions run high. I understand that with sports. I did a quick check in my head about the questions I was asking. I didn't think that there was anything wrong with the tone. I didn't think there was anything wrong with the questions that were asked. I thought they were the kind of questions that had to be asked. Clearly, there were. And now, maybe, just maybe, Ken, when I ask and I say, I think I asked something along the lines of, were there adjustments made that your team struggled with? And, sometimes what can happen, and I'll talk to like players and former coaches and stuff like that, maybe they can feel as though that's a shot, right? Like, well, you were out coached is maybe what they think I'm trying to say with a hidden message in that question. And fair enough if it's determined that way, but the point I was seeing is like, I need to ask questions about what I see in the game. And what I saw was a lot of really, really smart adjustments that were made by the Blues that just kind of took the Jets' strength so far in this series and used it against them, right? And so
dig into that. Like, we talked about it during the game, but dig in on some of the stuff that you saw.
Okay, well, the Jets, the way that they defend in the neutral zone is they're trying to create a wedge. They're trying to make you choose one way or the other to try and get into the zone. And what they do is once you choose, then they start closing that off. It's a trap. They're setting a trap, and they pinch you at the boards, and you turn the puck over, or you have to dump it in behind them, right? So So one of the things they were doing is we always talk about the tip of the spear. The guy in the middle of the ice for the Winnipeg Jets is usually the guy who forces the puck carrier coming down the ice to choose a side, right? If you're already coming down a wing, you've already chose a side, they can close you off. But if you come down the middle, that guy's job is to make you choose a side. What they started doing, Ken, is they snuck a guy in behind that guy, and then he would pop out from behind them, and that player would make the pass to that guy. Once you get the pass and you're behind the tip of the spear, well, there's a big wide open area of the ice right in behind that player. Now your defenders have to collapse into the middle, and that opens up so if you don't collapse into the middle, the player goes straight down the middle, and there you go, he's got an opportunity. So one of the goals that we saw was a play that they got the puck off to the side, and Cam Fowler came straight down the middle. He's wide open. We don't see a lot of that from the Jets this year. Why? Because no one's really tried this against the Winnipeg Jets. They haven't really seen much of this before. But what happens is if you can get the puck, that was the thing, is with Monty talked about swarming, right? And being challenged. But if you can get the puck in behind that, there's space in behind that. So they went and they found a way to get the puck carrier, the puck behind the tip of the spear of the Winnipeg Jets defense. Now, when you're wide open in the middle there, the defense have to collapse. Once they collapse, they can't pinch away on the boards. They can't take away the boards. And now you get to distribute the puck into where those defensemen have collapsed from, and you get to walk into the zone with control. So again, games 1 and 2, go back, look at those games, see how many times the puck got dumped in, and Connor Hellebuyck went out and stopped the puck and played that puck. It's a turnover. If you throw the puck behind and Connor Hellebuyck gets it, it's a turnover, and now you're chasing the puck. The St. Louis Blues didn't have to turn over the puck. Now they've got possession. Now they've got control. Now the Jets are scrambling to cover off an area of the ice that's left wide open, and now you are chasing the game. The thing about the Jets is they're like, Teams that play fast, like the Winnipeg Jets, here's a news flash. Everyone in the NHL is fast. Some teams are faster than others, but the Jets are fast. They've got fast players, just like everyone else has fast players, but you're trying to get your players to play fast. And so it's the tendency for fans to look at games like this and say, well, the Jets didn't show up. They were barely skating. No, what's happening is the Jets aren't able to play fast as a cohesive unit, because if you're constantly challenging the areas of the ice that they designed to leave open because they're going to try and make you make bad choices before you can get there, now you're reacting to the opposite team, and you don't get to react offensively on your toes. You're constantly reacting to them. One other thing they did, I'll point out, how many times did a player from St. Louis get the puck down in the corner, button hook around, and then what they usually do and what the Jets want you to do to trap you is to throw it up the boards towards the defenseman. The winger who's there is either going to pick off the pass, turn it up ice, and now you're rushing out of the zone, maybe with numbers, or at the very least, they can skate up and be right on that defender. What the Blues started doing is the weak side D-man gave up the boards and moved to the middle of the ice, and St. Louis started turning around and just throwing that puck straight up the middle to that defender there, and now he's right in the middle of the ice with the puck and with space, because it's an area of the ice that the Jets typically leave open behind the swarm. So this is what happened. Montgomery went in, he looked at the Jets, he looked at where they weren't on the ice and said, we need to get the puck to these areas. And that's what they did on this night. The Jets weren't prepared for it. They didn't know how to react to it in game. This is what happens going forward. They've got to adjust to it now. Game on, Ken.
Yeah, exactly. Game on is right. And we had this was the Spider-Man meme game. The Blues did to the Jets what the Jets often do to others. They started strong, they attacked, and then the roof kind of, you forced the opposition for the roof to cave in, right? I mean, this was active defense, really good special teams, and that's an issue for me, Sean. That get into the Perfetti thing, and that it's really not much to get into. I mean, without I think that Scott Arniel made it pretty clear that he thought it was in, but they couldn't prove it. So we know that Cole Perfetti was very definitive in his comments, and you expect that because he had a better view than what the video showed. But as Scott Arniel kind of pointed out, it's true. It looks like it's in, but there's no picture that shows where the goal line is and when the puck is on its edge. Yes, we all think it went in, but without the technology, you can't prove it. So, would that have been a big moment for the Jets? Of course, but it's not close to where being in the top reasons why they lost the game. So, special teams is a massive issue so far for the Jets, and we know they worked incredibly hard on their special teams this year. Davis Payne has done an incredible job with the power play, but right now the execution on the power play, Sean, is not there. Yes, you can argue that Perfetti play is a power play goal, and yes, Neil Pionk gets a one-timer, but that's a garbage time power play goal. That's not a game is tied, you need a goal if you're the Jets kind of delivery. Yeah, I mean, does it help their confidence to a degree? Sure, but the Jets have scored 2 power play goals in 3 games, Sean. They've given up 6 by my count. 6 power play goals in 3 games is too many. Like, yes, some of them are bad breaks, sure, but you cannot give up 6 power play goals in 3 games if you want to have full control of the series. And yes, you can still argue Jets are up 2-0. They're in control, but you can't withstand issues on both sides. -4 in the special teams battle. That is you're putting yourself in a situation where you're becoming too reliant on either A, all-world goaltending, or B, a very slim margin for error at 5-on-5. And Sean, after 2 games, the Jets were dominant in the 5-on-5 department. They'd only given up 1 goal at 5-on-5. But another one of the things the Blues talked about going into the game was showing a willingness to get to the hard areas. Where does Buchnevich score? It's obviously there's an element of luck there. He kicks it like kind of foot to stick and bangs it in. Of course. Where was he standing? Just outside the blue paint, right? Which is where the coach asked his players to go. That's where they scored from. Too many lanes open. The Kyrou goal, Sean, how many times have we seen the Jets allow a guy to walk flat in like that and go shelf? I mean, that was poorly covered. That I'm not saying the Jets are reeling, but they need to sharpen up on their special teams, and if they do that, they would be in better shape here. But anyways, what do you think of the power play? Did you see some other outside of the Perfetti play? Did you see some things that you'd be encouraged by if you were Davis Payne?
Here, let me just address quickly the Perfetti goal before we go on to that. Sure. This puck. This is one of these situations where common sense tells us the puck is in the net. Okay, but we all know the rules here, and it's the same rules the rest of the league has been playing by for a really long time. You need definitive proof, right? And there was not definitive proof in this situation. Now, I know a lot of people are ranting and raving about this, but I mean, what happened here is a situation where I'm sure you want to know why the refs took so long to make that call? Because the refs know it's a goal, but by the rule of law, they need to be able to prove beyond a shadow of doubt that it's a goal. And if you're taking a look at, well, the puck's on its side, and yes, everything that you're explaining is builds a case that you can determine that 99.9% it's a goal, but you can't. It has to be definitive. It has to be 100%. That goal is lost the moment on the ice the officials don't call it a goal. If they call it a goal, it goes the other way, and there's no way that shot gets overturned. This is just the way it goes. It's the rules everyone's been playing by. I know Owen got a hold of me, and people, I'm not going to get into it. Everyone know my feelings on this. I want as little replays as possible. The one I do want is if it's over the line, tell me it's over the line. I could do away with offsides and all these different kind of things. I hate those reviews. I think they slow down the game. They take goals away. And if you're talking about a fraction of a millimeter, that is the difference between a goal being a goal and not being a goal. Like, let it slide is my take on this. I get a lot of people are talking about this, though. Someone said so in the chat room as well, that they think it's unthinkable that the NHL doesn't have goal line technology. I mean, people are going to think that. I don't. I just think that it's more like, okay, so the Jets came out on the wrong side of this one tonight. There's other times other teams are going to come out on the wrong side of it. Move on. I think it all balances out in the end. That's my take on the whole thing. Other than that, if we want to move on and go to the power play, I thought that was, basically you saw. So Cole Perfetti gets a really good scoring opportunity from a spot that we usually see Kyle Connor, right? Yep. What the Jets did tonight by moving Kyle Connor to the middle of the ice was say, actually, when Kyle's in that spot, that's a real good function, like that trying to set up that goal is something that it's a system goal. Now, Kyle Connor usually scores from there, and a lot of people are going to say, well, Kyle Connor scores from there all the time because it's Kyle Connor, he's got a great shot and all this kind of stuff. Well, yes, Kyle Connor has a great shot, and if you give him opportunities in good spots, he's going to score more than the average guy. But what we've seen, Ken, and we know, is that since Christmas time, he hasn't been scoring from there, and it's not because he's missing the net or not getting his, he can't shoot anymore. It's because opposition players realized how dangerous he is, and they won't let him shoot from there. So Winnipeg Jets coaches say, let's put a tweak in here. Let's move him into the middle, and now they'll focus there, and that'll open that spot back up, which is a good spot to score from. And if we can execute it properly, then Cole Perfetti is going to get a goal. And he did on this night. Didn't count in the end, but what I do like is the creativity of this in them saying, let's open back up a function of the power play that brings us success, and let's do it by taking the guy who everyone is cheating to shut down in that area and put him in a different area. And now that area will remain open and the other team won't cheat to it. And we think we'll get ourselves good opportunities. So I thought it was creative. I like it. It's a step forward. I still think for the most part, the Winnipeg Jets power play that we knew that was that unstoppable power play is unstoppable because of all those different options. And I do think the most important option on the power play is Gabe Vilardi in front of the net. Because if you have to anchor to him, it makes it that much harder to anchor to anyone else. And if you have to anchor to Kyle Connor, what it means is now you've got Mark Scheifele, Josh Morrissey, and Nikolai Ehlers on a 3-on-2. I like their chances of those three players going up against an odd man situation like that. So in the meantime, Jets coaches doing smart things to try and open up the ice. Did it tonight, resulted in a goal. I know it doesn't stay on the board, but that's an example of good coaching and progress for the Winnipeg Jets in their power play game.
Yeah, and I think Cole Perfetti is doing a fantastic job. Yes, the Jets miss Ehlers and Perfetti, no doubt about that. I love the way that Cole is exuding confidence with the man advantage, not just on the shot, but his touches are getting quicker. Again, this is a place where he's flourished his whole life. Junior, with the Moose, everything else. Being on with more skilled players on the top unit is giving him additional confidence. So to me, I think that he's doing a good job of filling in. And, Gabe Vilardi's a guy, Sean, again, I'm going to stand by what I said from the very beginning going into this series. I don't think that he's ready for game 4. Now, hey, 2-day break will benefit him. But I think it's more likely that he would be in game 5 than game 4. But we'll see what happens when the Jets are on the ice on Saturday. But until he gets out of the yellow non-contact, he's not a consideration. And he remains in the yellow non-contact as of today. And we'll see where it goes. But I agree with you. I mean, this is the thing. It's smart coaching because, Sean, as everything you said, the opposition is trying to take away Kyle Connor. So put Kyle Connor somewhere else or he can open up opportunities for others. And that's smart coaching. But ultimately too, one of the reasons Kyle's one of the best weapons on that power play is his ability to score. And he still had 9 power play goals this year, even though he doesn't have one since December 23rd. Right. I mean, that's a long time. So
yeah.
Again, he almost had one in game 1. He got robbed. Yes, I understand that, but he's a massive part of the power play also. And he has been kept under wraps, at least on the scoring side of things, since December.
Are you done, Ken, or did you just need to cough? You're good? Well, look at him gutting it out, folks, getting the point done before he takes care of that business. I'm ready to hand out the Flame and Comfort hot take, the good kind of hot take here. 73 Ambassador says, when the Jets got embarrassed by Florida this season, they came next game and spanked the Cats right back. I'm not losing hope yet. I will say this: the thought process by fans is that the Jets kicked the Florida's ass the next game. If you remember that game, it was a tight game. It was a 1-goal game. And I believe at the end, the Jets got 2 empty netters and Florida also hit 3 posts in that game. I think it's a little rich for Jets fans to remember that in the manner that the Jets absolutely crushed the Florida Panthers and they, left town with their tail in between their legs, licking their wounds, all the things that cats do. That's a little bit rich to suggest that, but it was, in my mind, the best evidence this year of the Jets doing what they need to do going into game 4 of this series, taking a look at what the opposition team did that really challenged them and really kept them from getting off the ground and tweak and move their game around. That's what Scott Arniel is going to be clearly pushing towards doing. And I think that game, like 73 Ambassador says, is evidence of the capability of Scott Arniel and his staff to do that. And hey, that's your KNR hot take brought to you by Flame and Comfort, Manitoba's premier supplier of fireplaces, wood stoves, inserts, and everything hearth related. After 50 years heating up your world, Flame and Comfort is soon moving. You'll find it will be one of the most impressive showrooms in Western Canada. You don't need your hot takes to keep that warm feeling inside, folks. Visit Flame and Comfort. They'll take care of it for you. Ken, we got to
go. Pristine Roofing wake up call here quickly. Good. Sorry. It's what where are we at here?
Did you set it aside?
Oh, shoot. Oh. Where are we going on here? Oh, what happened here? I thought I had it in the start. Okay.
Well, don't worry about it. We can keep looking for that. In the meantime, what we should do is...
whatever. We can just give the Jets the Pristine Roofing wake up call for a poor effort. Obviously, the Pristine Roofing wake up call, if there's one here, is that, listen, when you're going throughout the playoffs, you're going to find teams that figure out ways to challenge what
makes you you. And I'll just say this: every game that the Jets lose, people say, "Well, they weren't skating very hard; they didn't try in this game," and that's everyone's take on the Jets losing. And I stress this. I stressed it in the Utah games. I stressed it in the Anaheim games because people just want to throw it out and say, when you challenge a team like the Jets, whose game is all about momentum, and you interrupt their momentum, then they slow down, right? Like if imagine trying to run a race, and as you're running that race, someone just keeps coming and tripping you, and you fall down, you get up. Well, try running a race as fast as you possibly can and having someone trip you up. Teams, it's their job to try to trip up teams like the Winnipeg Jets to keep them from being the giant rolling boulder that I always refer to them as being. That's what happens in this. It's not always the Jet. It's lazy to try and take a look at games that Jets lose and say, oh, the Jets just didn't show up in this. You got to solve the problems. It's a good thing that the Jets coaching staff doesn't have that attitude. Oh, we just didn't show up on this night. And they go out and they try and fix it, because that's what they did during the season. That's why the Jets were able to get back up to speed. But I will say this: it's a Pristine Roofing wake-up call to the Winnipeg Jets that in the playoffs, there's teams that you think you've got locked down, and then they change a whole bunch of stuff, and now all of a sudden it can swing back in the other direction, no doubt. So, of course, that means it's time to give North End Rec the Pristine Roofing wake-up call at 204-981-6289. He's the guy you want down at your place for all your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. You can also call Pristine Roofing directly at 1-204-237-7663. Give your home folks the Pristine Roofing and Siding wake-up call. You will be happy that you did. Okay, we got to get into Connor Hellebuyck. I said it last game. I think it holds true this one. Connor Hellebuyck has yet to arrive in this series. This game was one that at least one glaring play at a very, very poor time. Very reminiscent for me of the timing of his giveaway behind the net in that Vegas series. Talked to Bernie Federico after the game. Really great guy. Roomed with Greg Millen for 3 years. A really good friend of his. So I had to have a conversation with him about that loss. But he had pointed out that he thought, put it this way, he's on the Blues, some of the Blues broadcasts. He thought it was a goal for Cole Perfetti. So he says, hey, Jets, score that one, or sorry, that's a goal. All of a sudden it's 3-1. Then you get David Gustafson's goal. All of a sudden it's 3-2. By the way, an all-time young guy mistake on that play by Jake Neighbors, who for whatever reason skates to try and get the guy that the defenseman already has, leaving David Gustafson as wide open as anyone has been in this series. But it's a 3-2 game, and he's talking about, and then all of a sudden Hellebuyck gives away a goal. You don't have those couple of things happen, or that goal goes for Cole Perfetti. This could be a very different game, was his take on the whole thing. But can I take a look at Connor Hellebuyck? He's not the Connor Hellebuyck that we saw in the regular season in this series yet. And then we see, you and I have defended him and talked about, how important he is at handling the puck, and all the people who kind of, grit their teeth and white knuckle through him playing the puck. I haven't been like that for a lot of years, because he's extremely important, like you asked the question the other day, in distributing the puck. He's the guy who is basically the first point of turning the puck over and getting it back into possession for the Winnipeg Jets. But even tonight, I thought that his decision-making on that play behind the net was way off where we've seen it from him. And I wonder, Ken, if we're just at the stage where you have to start asking the question of what happens to Connor Hellebuyck in the playoffs when he starts to make the kind of plays we don't see him make often in the regular season.
Yeah, we saw, Connor sort of go from, the last time he spoke before the series, he said how, last year at the exit meetings, he's like, oh, I can't put it all in myself. And then today he said, I crumpled that up and put it in the garbage really quick. I want to get a shout at every game. And it's obviously worked for him in the regular season in terms of the results, but it feels like you're just putting, if you expect to get a shout at every game in the playoffs, you're often going to be disappointed, I think. So, even all the power of positivity stuff aside, but of course you'd be shooting for one, but in terms of expectations, it sort of puts you off on a little bit of a strange note. Yeah, I mean, in terms of playing the puck, I mean, it just seemed like it was also. I would also say this, Sean. I mean, this is not a defense, but this was a night where the Jets struggled on zone exits. So that might have been a goalie trying to do too much in that situation. Now, the timing is terrible, and that's a mistake that you cannot make in that game after the Jets get back into the game. But I can understand the thought process behind wanting to play the puck there, even though he played it to the wrong spot, and it obviously ended up in a goal here. But so for me, I mean, I would say he had to make a couple big saves. I was talking with Joe Vitale on the radio side this morning. You know, two really big saves at the start of game 2 off Robert Thomas. So I feel like he arrived in that scenario after wanting to bounce back after giving up 3 in game 1. But he hasn't put his stamp on the series, Sean. That is 100% accurate. You're bang on. And this is simple. Sean, we've talked about this for 8 years. We've talked about this for 8 years, 9 years, 10 years. The Jets can't get average or below average goaltending, even though they've improved their team, all of those things. They need above average to elite level goaltending to win 16 playoff games. These are facts. These are not unreasonable expectations. Right now, Connor Hellebuyck has not found the, all world best goalie in the NHL during the regular season level. We're in agreement there. And I think he would be as well, even though he wouldn't want to talk about it. He's going to need to play better in this series. And, again, I think it's more likely that Connor gets back to his regular season level than some of the past struggles in the last 2 playoffs. But that's up to him to show that.
Where was I going to go with this? Oh, hey, this is like blew me away. I'm actually like, how many years have we waited on this show for a great take by T. Will? And here it is. He absolutely nails this. Like we've sifted through a lot of, T. Will to get to the diamond in the rough here. This is T. Will's brightest and best moment on the Kenny and Renny show. He says, he started off the game well. He made a few big saves early in the first to keep it at 2-0, but he tends to only play as well as the Jets implement the defensive structure in front of him. He nails this. And part of that as well is people are pointing out, because here, I'll say this. Stay in the net, Jack says. Worst puck handler in the league, Jets back 1, says AJ, Jets back 1. These are way, way off comments. T. Will nails this, though. Like, one of the things about Connor Hellebuyck is, and all goalies need this. If you are a goalie who goes and plays the puck and there are opposition players, coming at you from all sides, you're going to have a hard go of it, right? If you get a lot of pressure in on a goalie, it's going to be a problem. The thing that the Jets do so well, so often, like I said, think about teams when they dump the puck in on the Jets, which they're trying to do. They're trying to get teams to force you to dump in the puck. Connor Hellebuyck goes out, he stops it behind the net, and then he turns around, and his job is easy. It doesn't take the best stick handling goaltender in the league to do this. They set one guy up in one corner, one guy up in the other corner, and most teams, and they definitely do this, Ken, when they've got teams that are playing like a 1-2-2 or a 1-3-1, where they've got one point of contact down the ice at first, because that player has to choose a side, and then all Connor Hellebuyck does is move the puck to the other side that the guy's at. Every once in a while, they'll send 2 guys and cover off the 2 guys on the board. And what does Connor Hellebuyck do in that situation? The forward comes down and he throws it to him close to the face-off dot, and then that guy just skates out because he's got 2 guys in behind him and he can skate it right out. So the Jets usually set this up well, but it's requisite on the opposition dumping the puck in so that Connor Hellebuyck can grab it and he can get possession. So when you play tonight, and we broke down all the reasons why that wasn't happening, and the Blues were carrying the puck, now when he plays the puck, he's not playing the puck from a position of strength and options. He's playing the puck just like all the other defenders on the Jets are, from a bad spot, from not being set up, from not being in all of the Jets are so good when they are on top of their game that it's paint by numbers. I get the puck and I either move it here or I move it here. And then that guy gets the puck and I either move it here or move it here. They took away the paint by numbers and challenged the Winnipeg Jets on this night, and Connor Hellebuyck got caught. So yes, are there moments where Connor Hellebuyck, if you press him, makes mistakes and they end up in the back of the net? You don't need me to tell you the answer to that is yes, because you watch it, you've seen it over the years. It's happened. You saw it happen tonight. And this play will remind you of many other plays as Nicholas laid it all out. There's a whole bunch of examples of Connor Hellebuyck doing this over his career. You don't need me to tell you that it happens. That's what happens when you get challenged. Okay. And you make mistakes and pressure's on. The pressure was put on tonight. Connor Hellebuyck folded under it. Sorry, I don't want to, that's not fair. That's not fair what I said. And that's not what I meant. It just came out. But on this night, he got caught. He got caught by the pressure, and it ends up in the back of the net. It was at a very, very bad and inopportune time during the game. Ken, I would be less concerned about his puck handling. I would be more concerned with the idea that the St. Louis Blues, when they get shooting opportunities, are shooting in the same spot over and over and over again. The book is out with this team on Connor Hellebuyck, and every time they get a shot, they're trying to put it upstairs on him.
Yeah, I mean, that's been interesting to monitor. I mean, one of the saves T. Willie mentioned was that one on Neighbors, right, where Hellebuyck was down, and it's still a great save, but he kind of kicked his leg up, and we thought it was a bicycle kick save. The puck actually hit him in the pants, though, so and I didn't see it in real time. In real time, I was like, holy smokes. But when we saw the replay, I mean, it's still a great save by Hellebuyck. He had to stop it, but it hit him in the pants rather than being a highlight reel special that we thought it was being made. So, yeah, I mean, Hellebuyck's got to be better. I mean, the team has to be better in front of him, but Hellebuyck's got another level that he can find.
Ken, I wanted to I wanted to ask you about this. You'd brought it up. The fact that the St. Louis Blues kept their top unit out towards the end of the game there. Do you have issue with that?
I don't personally have issue. I just was curious. Like, this reminded me of a Bruce Boudreau, Paul Maurice back and forth. I know once it happened in the preseason game. They've had a lot of back and forth during that series in 2018, which was super fun. I just wondered if it was something that would catch the attention. And again, I don't think that I don't think Scott O'Neill was upset about it. To me, if you don't like the other team putting out their top unit, just stop them. And the second after the Parayko goal, then they put out their fourth line. So I don't personally have an issue with it. I just wondered if it caught the attention of the players at all, or if it caught Scott O'Neill's attention. And I thought that if it caught Scott's attention, it would have brought it up. And here's the other part of that, Sean. In the regular season, you can use that as motivation when you're trying to get your team through a difficult thing. I think if you bring that up in the playoffs, you kind of, I don't know, you sound like you're making excuses in some ways. It just kind of, to me, I didn't have an issue with it. It did catch my attention, but again, Parayko barely played down the stretch. So the fact that they want to get him out there for some extra minutes, I mean, no big deal to me. I mean, I thought he was great in the game.
By the way, what a good game.
What a shot. Yeah, it was fantastic. So
this is what I said to Ken when this happened, and it was a pretty quick retort on my part. The Winnipeg Jets have been that team for years now, and we've talked about it on this show, and we talked about it when the Trent Frederick incident happened at that stage, because I get it. Ken brought that up, and my typical thing would be like, what hockey that I've seen from back in the day, people would be upset with that. What are you running up the score for? What do you need to run up the score? Now, Ken brings up good points. Colton Parayko needs some ice time. Maybe he needs to, this is an opportunity for the St. Louis Blues to maybe get better down the stretch. But if the Jets were getting upset at this, the Jets, in my mind, have been the kings of being that team that's like, you're going to keep taking penalties, we're going to burn you on the scoreboard. You want to come punch our guy in the mouth, we're going to be calm about it, and we're going to burn you on the scoreboard. The Jets have been the team that keeps the guys out and runs up the score for a long time. So if the Jets were offended and thought that the St. Louis Blues were being jerks on this night for doing that, they would have to look in the mirror and realize that they're jerks, because they are kind of the kings of doing exactly this. The league is changing, Ken, and I get that. There's a move away from thinking the way I think about these kind of things, right? Like I used to, really strongly, kind of bang on the table. And what are these guys doing, running up the score and all those kind of things? The new generation of hockey player, I don't really think thinks about this. They don't take offense to a lot of those kind of things. That said, there's a lot of old-fashioned heat in this series, and I do think at some point you just keep running the goals up on a team. They're going to get frustrated, and they're going to start doing things that spew from that frustration. We saw that from the Jets here tonight, as we saw that from the St. Louis Blues in the previous games.
Yeah, and I would just say too, I mean, I think that if the Jets needed a reason to be pissed off, they could point at that, but they were already pissed off by the way the game went and the effort they put out, and I don't think it would be very low on their list of things that they would want to atone for.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. Let's just bring this one up as well. T. Will finally sticking with it for all these years and keeping comment after comment after comment that fell flat and flatter and flattest over and over again, finally coming away with a gem of a comment like this. His stick-to-itiveness is a model for us all to follow. And boy, did it ever pay off for him on this night. And hey, if you're looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt-free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. Ken, you want to give Sweet Lou a shout out?
You bet. For folks who have realty needs you'd like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin, at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU at LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of our community, including this podcast.
All right, Ken, we'll do some awards and we'll chat about some stuff if we get to the other side of it. But let's start with the keg save of the game. What do you got?
Yes. What was the...
I'll hop out.
Bennington had a really good one. I'm just
the keg save of the game for the first time and maybe the only time on this show was not a save tonight, but it was. It's the Perfetti. It's the save on the Perfetti.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah.
If he doesn't get his glove on that shot, it's in the net clearly, right, and there's no question about it. Now, was it in the net? I think it was. But I also think that there was no absolute definitive proof that it wasn't out, so I understand it. You and I were talking as it was going on before it happened. Ken was a big believer that puck was in and should have been counted as a goal. Myself watching it, I didn't think that there was enough evidence. And one thing is Rick Houston, my camera guy who's here,
yep,
who's neutral on this series, right? Because he's not invested in either of these teams, had said right off the bat, there's not enough evidence to turn that over. But just giving you a little behind the scene look at it there. But I'm giving the keg save of the game to Jordan Binnington in that spot, because if he doesn't do what he does, even though I think it's a goal, it definitely counts as a goal. So I hand it to him. That
was my choice also.
Okay.
There we go. I blanked out at 2:10 a.m. In where I was searching.
There you go. You had a little Will Ferrell blanking out for 10 seconds there, coming back with it. That's our keg save of the game. Doesn't matter what we think, though. Matters what you think. Share with us your hashtag the keg save of the game. You are automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And our winner from our last show, that would be Richard Bennett. Richard, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your name. Send me an email. I will have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And that brings us, Ken, to our TCB lamplighter of the game. What you got? You're on mute.
Sorry, I mean, as the conductor of the Gus bus, I'll have to give him the honorable mention in this one. Great play by Jared Anderson Dolan. to go wide, and great finish by David Gustafsson. But in a game where the Jets were blown out 7-2, I'm going with the Cam Fowler goal. It happens to be the game winner, Sean, but it's everything about what happened on the play. The ability of Robert Thomas to find Cam Fowler down the seam, to bury that shot at 15:51 of the first period, to complete the onslaught as a 3-0 deficit rather than 2. And if the Jets get that to the dressing room at 2-0, maybe they view it a little bit differently. But in a vintage activation station moment that we've seen from Josh Morrissey all year long, it was Cam Fowler's goal to me that I'm choosing as a lamplighter, even though, again, great finish. The Jets' fourth line has 2 goals in this series. That's enough in terms of secondary scoring provided by the fourth line. But to me, it's the Fowler goal, and not just because it's the GWG. It's just an impressive play, and it's something that St. Louis had not been able to attack the Jets in that manner in the series so far, which is why it also catches my attention.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with the Buchnevich goal.
Sure.
I go with that because it's one of these things. So I had, everyone kind of reaching out to me and talking about all the lucky bounces and all these different kind of things. And when I was honestly, I was found it puzzling that people kept bringing up lucky bounces, and I'd ask them what they meant, and they kept referring to the Buchnevich goal. And even Cole Perfetti kind of talked about how lucky it was out of the gate. If this was the Winnipeg Jets scoring this goal, there's no one who would be talking about how lucky of a bounce this was. They didn't talk about it when Mark Scheifele scored his first goal in the game 1 or his second goal in game 2. We would be saying, well, that's really good players. They've got good hand-eye coordination, all of these kind of things. And that's exactly what we saw in this situation here. We saw an elite guy pull off an elite hand-eye coordination move to put the puck in the back of the net. And listen, more space opened up for St. Louis as this game went on. But in that situation, even though he's in a good spot, the Jets aren't leaving much. So a pass getting to that player has to be white hot, not on the player's stick. And it takes a special move to put that puck in the back of the net. And that's exactly what he does in that situation. I'm baffled by the people who would be saying Mark Scheifele is a god and all this kind of stuff. If Mark Scheifele had scored that, and all the people who are talking about Pavel Buchnevich and saying, well, this is just an absolutely lucky play. I was really surprised to hear Cole Perfetti say it. I think that this is just good players finding a way to do things in really tight circumstances, which is exactly what the playoffs are all about. So for me, that's the the TCB lamplighter of the game. Ken has something to say before
just the only lucky portion. It bounced off Snuggerud. That's the lucky part. The skate stick is not lucky. I mean, Fowler's shot hits Snuggerud in front of the net and happens to land on his foot. That I can see as being a portion of luck. The fact that an NHL player goes stick to skate and shelf, that to me is not luck. There's lots of guys. We talk about Nino Niederreiter's ability to tip pucks. That part's not the lucky part. The unlucky part for the Jets is that it bounces off Snuggerud. But where is Snuggerud, Sean? In front of the net, around the blue paint. So spot. That's what you need to do.
So there you go. So I've talked endlessly on this show about the Winnipeg Jets and the hockey god bounces they've got this year. But I've said this, it's an example of clean living. You do the right things and the bounces will go your way. Not always, but sometimes they do. And this is exactly that. You get numbers to the net, and then that's what ends up happening. It goes off a guy, goes into the right spot. There you go. Winnipeg Jets have had plenty, I think, to be honest, and this is the one thing that I always find fascinating, is when a bounce doesn't go the Jets' way or a bounce goes the opposition team's way. I'm always hearing from fans about, how it's the Jets this year, I think, have had an all-time year for bounces going their way. And I can't think of very many bounces that didn't go the Jets' way or went their opposition's way. If that's the kind of bounce that goes your way that you're like, oh my God, how lucky are they? Nothing is going off players and into the back of the net or any of these kind of things that we've seen. We've seen that twice for the Jets so far in this series. So give Pavel Buchnevich his flowers and give someone a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale at some point, because we would like you to apply for that. And you do that in a very official manner by hashtagging TCB Lamplighter to your favorite goal of the game. You do that, you're automatically entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to gift you your 8-pack, you can head on down to 1290 Keniston and join them in their tap room, where you can pick up lots of beer in their beer store, have a seat, and check out all of the great selections they have on tap. Get some pizza while you're down there. I think it's the best in the city of Winnipeg. All right, and that brings us to our Lamplighter winner from our last show, and that winner would be hold on, Tracy EB. Oh no.
Yep. Yes.
No. Yes. Well, I've got
so,
it here.
yes.
Yes, it is Tracy EB. Tracy,
and she was here earlier.
There you go, Tracy. You are the Lamplighter winner from our last show. You know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email. I will have the fine folks at the I will send you a voucher for a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. You are soon to find out, Tracy EB. It is the nectar of the gods. Ken, anything to say before we get going?
Just for the folks who had been asking, I tried to do it subtly when we were here. Scott O'Neill confirmed that Dylan DeMello was scratched due to illness. He only found out around 4 p.m. So again, we don't know how these things are going to go, but I would imagine it's probably closer to the 24-hour flu variety, and that he'd be ready for game 4 on Sunday at noon. But we'll kind of monitor that situation. And just quickly, I mean, we talked about secondary scoring. Fourth line's got 2 goals. The Lowry line only has the 1 empty netter so far, and the Jets second line has yet to produce a goal in 3 games. And hey, we get it. They'd had some good looks at various points, and Perfetti set up the winner in game 2 to Kyle Connor on a blended shift. But that line's got to get going. Niederreiter, I think, has been effective. He's been involved at times. He had 6 hits today, but that line's got to get producing offense. Nemestikov, we know how hard he plays and everything, Sean, but I think after today, it's now 1 goal in his last 30 games, I believe, is what he has. And again, he contributes in other areas. We know that. But when you're playing a team that has depth scoring, it's not even depth scoring. The second line's got to get moving here without Ehlers being available to them.
We all know what will be said at the end of the playoffs if the Jets don't win the cup, and what you're talking about with Vladislav Nemestikov continues. A couple things we should say before because we did go, and I know that I made some of the listeners a little bit upset when I talked about and defended Logan Stanley in our last show, and we pointed out what an amazing game Logan Stanley had in game 2, and plenty of people pointed out it's 1 game, take it easy, and all that kind of stuff. We shouldn't go from that and then to a game like this and not point out it was a rough night along the boards for Logan Stanley. A lot of lost puck battles that he needs to be stronger on. Same thing with Luke Shen. That pairing didn't have the best night on this night. Listen, this is, and I know that Nick Lynham mentioned this earlier on. I didn't star the comment, but he talked about, them figure out the Jets don't have good puck moving defensemen. The Jets, look at their roster. If you take a look at the Jets on paper, it is not the strongest looking team out there. The thing about the Jets is they have always been a sum of their parts playing a really phenomenal system. And this is why you've heard Renny banging the drum about the whole Connor Hellebuck thing, and me saying the thing I don't like about that idea of Connor Hellebuck, he's this, that, and blah, blah, he's the clear MVP and all this kind of stuff. I don't think it gives credit to the Jets and their system and how good that system is. When that system gets challenged, then the errors that players make or the weaknesses of the players within that system that is broken down start to get exposed. So on a night like tonight, what you're seeing not every hockey player is perfect. They look perfect within the Jets system because the Jets system, when executed, has near perfect results. When you take that away, the not perfect hockey players behind that all have warts. They all have issues, and those issues get exposed on a night where you are disjointed and forced to be disjointed by the pressure that's applied by the opposition team. It was a rough night for that pairing tonight. I want to make sure I say that so people don't think I'm ignoring bad games and praising just good games. Wanted to make sure I got that out there. There's something else I had to say. It seems to be slipping my mind right now.
Do you want to weigh in on Miller?
Before you go?
Talked about him during the game. I mean, what'd you think of Miller's game filling in on that third pair?
Well, I thought he definitely added to the heat of that game going up at some point. It draws a penalty by dropping after he gets slashed on the back of the leg. There you could definitely tell there was the Blues were upset with that, thought that he was, diving to draw a penalty. It was happening on the other side of the ice as well. Both teams are doing what they can to try and create the opportunities in that series. I think Miller's really good at doing those kind of things while really upsetting the opposition. He got the heat going in that game. He had a nice shot on net that was snagged out of the air. That was actually a keg save of the game candidate right there as well for Jordan Binnington. Sets up the one-timer that ends up in the back of the net off of Neil Pionk. Jets, I don't know. The Jets were a frustrated group tonight across the board. So when you see those players, you're seeing their frustration on full display as well. Not an easy night to. I mean, if I'm taking a look around, I don't know who I'm giving A+ grades to on the Winnipeg Jets. They all looked a little bit discombobulated tonight. And again, I'm not going to sit there and say what a lot of people want to say and want to believe. The Jets just didn't have it tonight. They didn't show up. I'm not saying Scott Arniel didn't have his guys ready. This is how the playoffs work. You're playing the same team over and over and over again. The opposition digs into you and tries to solve the riddle that you are putting out there for them. They solved that riddle tonight. The St. Louis Blues did. Now the Winnipeg Jets have an opportunity to go out and do something to solve the St. Louis Blues riddle. This is the playoffs. This is how it goes. Excited for Game 4. Ken, anything to say before we go?
No, should be a fun one on Sunday. Enjoy your weekend, folks.
All right. Oh, we never even talked about. So I took Ken to the Blues City Deli, which I've always been talking about today. Ken, your review?
I'm impressed. It was darn great.
Yeah, we had the owner came over and talked with us and everything. It sounds
awesome
like
choice.
I said this. There was no meatball sandwich there, which is my favorite sandwich I've ever had. They took it off the menu, but I've been pestering them so much. He said they've had high-level meetings. They think they're putting it on the menu, so I may not have won the battle here today, although I had a lights-out sandwich. Anyways, may not have won the battle, but Renny just may win the war. And speaking of winning the war, I need some closure on this for the folks. I provided you with the third Renny guarantee near the end of the season there, in that I would beat that traffic ticket. That's exactly what I did. Traffic ticket, crumpled up, thrown out. I walked in, did my best Dixie lawyer impression. I'll tell you, Your Honor, you cannot acquit. Whatever. I'm not going to go down that road. But Renny guarantee, it means something, folks. If I see a chance for the Renny guarantee at some point in this series, I'll bust it out. Anyways, that's it for Ken. That's it for me. That's it for all you fine folks who we can't believe it. 2:24 in the morning. You're rocking with us here. We do so much appreciate it. And let's throw out a special thanks to our guy, Tristan Rivers, who just keeps stocking our shelves with the most kick-ass music in the industry. That is something that makes our podcast stand aside, and we have nothing to do with it. Everything to do with Tristan Rivers. And thank you to all you folks out there. You're the secret sauce of the Kenny and Renny Show, tuning in here. The other part of the secret sauce that we hope you appreciate is our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. For us, that's Vittorio Rossi, Cambrian Credit Union, Pristine Roofing, Flame and Comfort, Sweet Lou Furlan, the Kenny and Renny OGs in the Johnston Group, the Keg, and of course, TransCanada Brewing Company. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you out there. Let's reconvene and do this in a couple days, Sunday, when Game 4 of the Winnipeg Jets versus St. Louis Blues first round series of the Stanley Cup playoffs resumes. Talk to you then, folks. Bye-bye.